Our next guest speaker this morning is going to talk to us about how to turn an amazing sales team into trusted business advisors. Please join me in welcoming Brett Bailey to the stage.
In his role as Vice President at WBM, Brett leads the Strategic Sales Organization, where they have emerged as a best-in-class provider of technology solutions in S. Please welcome Brett Bailey, Vice President, WBM Office Systems.
All right. They told me if I walked out here, it would help me establish a closer bond with my audience. I think it's working. So thanks very much, everybody. My name is Brett Bailey. I'm a vice president with WBM. I'm really excited to have the chance to stand here in front of you today and talk about the work that we've done in building an account management team at WBM. I'm going to have to grab a slide advancer here, so I'm going to have to abandon the bond for a moment, and it's not here, so I'll work with Stav, I guess, to advance my slides, which I'd like to do now, Stav. In building what we've built at WBM, this community has played a profound role, and like Stephen before me, I think it's important that I open with a very sincere thank you. And I really mean that. My first Venture Tech Invitational was Hollywood, California, many invitationals ago. By show of hands, is there anybody in the room who was at that invitational? How many of you? And not just the Keeners, people actually who were there, put up your hand. Yeah. Okay, nice. And that was my first Venture Tech Invitational, and I gotta say, that was quite an experience for me. It made me realize something that that really wasn't apparent. In fact, that was one of my first experiences in the channel, one of my first experiences in my new career with WBM. And as I really tried to figure out what this was going to be all about, that invitational was almost bittersweet. I was excited to attend the sessions, and I remember standing up in my hotel room and looking out over the Hollywood sign and thinking, man, I'm not in step with some of the issues that are being discussed. I'm not really understanding the potential impact of what people are talking about. I remember talking to my business partner, Bob, and saying, I don't feel like we're even in the game. And we've come so far as an organization from that first invitational. I brought back as much as I could from that experience, and future invitationals, and had the opportunity to meet so many of you and tour your organizations, and ultimately the work that our president Joanne has done, and the opportunity to work with you has been very enriching. So I really need to advance my slides before I run completely out of time. So I'm gonna actually, yeah. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Rita. Yes, this is awesome. Okay, back to the connection. Awesome. Okay, so thank you. I think we've covered that. In terms of an account management philosophy, there's something unique about WBM, and I built a bit of a chronology at the bottom of this slide, in that we were established in 1950. And certainly from my perspective, as I looked across a 61-year heritage in technology and really worked with what I would call a fledgling VAR, we were not in a good spot at the time of that California Invitational. And as I looked across the chronology, I became starkly aware of the fact that the solutions we're offering today are not the solutions we were offering 5 years from now. In fact, we should be offering different solutions, but we're behind. And if you go all the way back to 1950, there's a constant evolution, and I know I don't have to tell you about that. But to me, that was horrifying. How could we possibly build a strategic organization on the basis of something that we don't even know what it's going to be 5 years from now? And so we took a step back and looked at our company and realized that if we can change gears a little bit and instead of being technology-centric, line up with our customers. And if we can say today that we know our customers and that we enjoy a strategic relationship with our customers and that we play a relevant role in the business of our customers, that's going to work. That would have worked in 1950, that works in 2011, and that's going to work for us in the future. And so we began to build an account management model based on a client-centric philosophy. To be driven not by technology but by our customer, to achieve understanding not of product but of the client community that we're building. And to approach value not as something that our sales team communicates, but as something that our sales team actually is. And that is a profound shift. To do that, we needed to make a significant departure. And those of you who know WBM know that if there's one thing we cherish more than anything, and if there's one thing that we've got in this world, it's our people. We've landed on an incredible group of people, and to me, that is our opportunity, that's my opportunity, and that's obviously their opportunity. And in order to get there, we really had to reinvent our sales organization. Getting the right people on the bus meant essentially abandoning the past traditional organization. We hired people who we believed in from past engagements. We hired people who shared the same core values as us. We hired a local restaurant manager. We hired somebody who rode the bus for 6 hours to his interview. We hired people who had that same passion to be a part of something. And these people weren't necessarily salespeople. In fact, from our previous team, we kept 2 individuals. One who was our strategic account manager on our largest engagements, and if it wasn't for his work, I'm not even sure if I'd be here today, and he's actually here with myself and Joanne. His name is Chris, and I encourage you to meet him. And then we kept another, his name is Jeff, who's just the most genuine and down-to-earth person you'll meet, somebody who's really likable, even though I think in the year before I met him, he had generated $32,000 in business as an account manager for us. We went forward with Jeff. And so it was that we set out to build a customer-centric account management model. And as we got to know our customers, and as we built those relationships, we grew. And we continued to bring knowledge back and experience back from this group. And so it was that, in fact, we grew to the point that by 2008, I can tell you that our strategic sales focus as an organization wasn't to have X in the funnel or generate X in growth. It was to document and meet every commitment that we've made to our client community, because we didn't feel the same. We didn't feel like we had a strategic vision and that we were building something. We felt busy and scrambled and overworked, and it was an interesting realization that there wasn't much more scalability left in what we were doing. From that perspective, so it was that we arrived at Venture Tech in Orlando as a company that had bumped up against what our president, Joanne, called the glass ceiling. We were excited, but we didn't see how we could go further without taking another step back and re-engaging and realigning our organization. At the Orlando Invitational, the keynote was delivered by a gentleman by the name of Adrian Davis. His firm, Whetstone Consulting, focuses on adding a scientific methodology to a successful sales practice. And I actually had Adrian provide me with one of the slides out of this presentation. I don't have time to go into the context around this, but I can tell you that as he spoke, he described to me a lot of the journey that we went through. Certainly the idea of being a stranger in a relationship life cycle, to the idea of being a supplier, moving to a desired supplier state, and finally to something that I really prided myself on in the work that our people had been able to do, and that is reach a level of trusted advisor with many of our client organizations. I know that's something that all of you in this room have also achieved. But as Adrian spoke, it really dawned on me that as good as we've done, I'm not sure we were really at that true trusted advisor state. We had opportunities, we had relationships that we certainly enjoyed, we had profitable engagements, but were we really trusted advisors or were we desired suppliers? And it really dawned on me that there was more work for us to do. And as I had that realization, Adrian went into a whole new level of customer engagement. The idea of moving beyond trusted advisor to become a strategic ally with your key partners. And to move in that direction was a profound shift, a very different body of work, and not something that you could just continue operating in the same de facto manner. And that really intrigued me. To move to the level of strategic ally meant a number of things, and a number of things that we weren't doing. And after that presentation, I sought out Joanne to say, hey, what did you think of Adrian's presentation? Because not everybody even liked this presentation. I'm sure many of you saw it, but it struck a chord with me. And I guess that's one of the messages, is that this is something that we found that was relevant, that we felt we could bring back to our organization. And Joanne kind of asked me, well, what did you think of it? And I said, for the first time, I don't really want to scribble these notes down and deliver them secondhand to our organization. I'm thinking, what does it look like if we actually bring Adrian into our team? And Joanne just laughed. She had already seen Adrian speak, and that was one of the reasons that she had actually arranged to have him at that invitational, was because she thought it could bring value to this community, and that I, in particular, would be struck by this message. So it was that we brought Adrian into our sales organization, a sales organization that had been successful, but that had hit maybe a bit of a wall, but that was made up of some grassroots, genuine, great people. And when Adrian arrived on the scene, there was sort of three fundamental shifts, I guess, that needed to happen in what we were doing. The first is that if we were going to reach a strategic ally level in our relationships, this can't happen at the level that we're working with. In fact, this can only happen at the CEO level. This can only happen in the C-suite. So we needed to change the level of engagement that we were working at, and this isn't something that we had in our bag. I was proud of the team that we had, and I thought we had done some great work, but we weren't engaging like that. Maybe at the occasional lunch to say thanks for the business from the perspective of diplomacy, but we weren't engaged at that level. That was a profound shift that needed to happen. The second thing that we worked on and learned is a best practice in sales, specifically in IT, that I think, regardless of your strategy, and certainly in my case, was overlooked, and that is the value of research. Proper research prior to a discussion, a meeting, and going into an opportunity or an engagement. And so with Adrian, we learned how to research an organization, how to engage with the suppliers to understand what challenges they're facing and working with that organization, how to read an annual report back to front so that we learned the facts and the situation first and then understood the story that was being weaved around that, and how to draw strategic lines of questioning out of those types of documents. That, in conjunction with a shift to the C-suite, really meant a complete change for our sales organization, even though the people remained the same. And the final piece that I think was a profound shift in what we did is something that Adrian called A-Sale. And A-Sale is simply an acronym to describe the recipe that we are going to use when we go into a discussion or a meeting with a C-level visionary, because this is a very different conversation than we'd ever had, and then certainly that you would have at the director of IT level within your client organizations. And it simply describes that conversation. A being amenity, the initial stages of the discussion, important to be at ease and comfortable, and obviously set up a laid-back, and I don't mean in the traditional sales sense, like you see the fish on the wall, hey, fish, I fish, or the, hey, I take family summer vacations, or hey, food, I eat food. It's like every salesperson who comes into that office is going to do that. This is a little bit different. We've worked to build a sales team of genuine people, and there's an opportunity here to just let that shine through a little bit. And that's somewhat self-effacing. We might be a little bit nervous, but also prepared. Might be very excited about the discussion, but also very serious about what we're doing here. And that shines through, and that differentiates us right out of the gate. Strategic context. Right from the first question that we ask, needs to be readily apparent that we've done our homework and that we're here to talk about something at a little bit different level. You know, we're not going to talk about how many seats are you. We're going to talk about, you know, we've seen in the last quarterly business review that you're reporting diminishing returns on efforts to gain share. Does that mean we can expect to see a growth through acquisition strategy emerge? Well, yeah. In fact, if you talk to some of our partners, you'll understand that we're currently in the final stages of several acquisitions for the first time that will see us grow in this manner. Attention focusing. So as the converse, and we're talking to visionary leaders in companies, these people, and I'm sure that if they're anything like yourselves, we could talk all hour just on the strategic direction of the organization. We need to move the conversation towards to focus their attention into some of the roadblocks and challenges that they're going to face as they execute on this vision. If you're going to grow through acquisition, you're going to be faced with different standards, different corporate cultures. How are you going to handle that, right? And the next stage of the discussion is probably the most difficult in terms of working to create a linkage, not something that we identify or that we say that we can do, but we need that leader to start to think about the role that not even ourselves, but that a strategic partner could play in moving that organization forward. So from a linkage perspective, we need an organization that can work independently with both organizations as they come together, but still provide